Hello there, this is Cookies, and I have turn 43. Um, and we're continuing to summon stuff, but we also have our War with End, so we finally get some entertainment. So first up, we have a Magic Phase attack from End into Larian Swamps. And it's the Meme Man, the Pretender, fully kitted out. Not much is here. So he's going to go ahead and kill my PD here. So a successful raid from End. And then in the Sodden Merc, we're going to go ahead and raid End. And it's just one PD. Alright, clear that up pretty quickly. We lose one mannequin, which is fine. Calum attacks Witch Haven with his Pretender, in case Scalaria wants to feed him another army. Does have the Rhyme Harbor now, so he's up at 27 protection, with Ice Protection 2. Also has a Frost Aura to go with the Fire Shield, which is an interesting set of like damage types and things for enemy armies to deal with. Then in Imric, End goes ahead and attacks us, and this is the move that we did predict from him. So we've got our Gembait squad here. This Dryad Hag will hopefully put Iron Skin on these two Forest Giants, but otherwise it's mostly a Gembait. We do want to see most of the script though. This is the core of the Gembait, is a couple of gems on a multipath mage. Oh, I suppose I should pull up. So we do have a number of Femini sorceresses. They've got a fair number of fire gems on them. This guy's got an earth gem, but all in all, not a heck of a lot going on here. We do have to worry potentially about a big Gifts from Heaven thing. Maybe a Firestorm thing. So this army is definitely something that we're taking seriously. I think until we saw them burning fire gems to do fire arrows. So I think at that point we realized that in soldiers of steel, yeah, more flaming arrows. So realizing that that's what the fire gems are for, maybe not Firestorm. I'm feeling more confident at this point in seeing their script. Well, in terms of our point buffing, we did get Iron Skin on one giant, but the other giant did not get it. But yeah, so fire arrows and falling fires, which is Evo 5, I believe, which means he also has, I think, Gifts from Heaven at that point. So we do have to worry about a fair amount of this stuff. This looks like a Banishment Communion, though, or maybe like a bunch of Body Ethereal going on. Body Ethereal is not something we're horribly scared about. It does help, but we do have the Sleep Vines, which are magic attacks. So they go through and they murder this army, and it's fine. After the battle, though, we see an Earth Gem and a few Fire Gems. So maybe enough for one more fight, but I think we're going to go ahead and roll the dice before they get more research and take the fight. And then remember we got Magic Phased in Larian Swamps? Well, we had a group moving into Larian Swamps. So we've got 2 carrying commanders here. So it's 2 groups of raiders. And we have a few carrion furies in this group. We forgot to bring the centaur that we need to bless the carrion furies. So they're unblessed. So really kind of screwed that up. So we see Air Shield, Personal Mist form. I do remember he jumps somewhere back here. So Personal Flight. Alright, so he's done a few of his buffs. And you can see just how many Sleepvine hits come in. And the carrying commander is probably getting a little bit scared. This guy is extremely killy, has 3 attacks, including that race sword. So if he kills both of the carrying commanders, this whole raiding force is toast. They'll all dissolve except the carrion furies, who will rout. So the carrion furies move in, and this idiot commander who's on stay behind troops decides that he needs to move behind the carrion furies, even though they're attacking from this direction. So if the stay behind troops command had a little bit more AI to it, he would realize that there's enemies here and he should stay towards the middle instead. But instead he ends up running in, and he runs into the square that would get hit with the carrion furies. Now, one of the, I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think one of them might have already died. Now, he's up at 63 fatigue. This guy is nowhere near fatigue neutral. So he's got 12 melee encumbrance, especially with the swamp penalty. And he's only got 6 reinvigoration. So when he's asleep, he'll wake up fairly quickly, but then he'll also go back to sleep pretty quickly. And let me see here. So he kind of freezes up a bit. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But he gets hit by a tremendous number of attacks. Now, these skull clubs do have a dark slumber effect, which is why they're so good against SCs. Not only do they have the sleep finds, which is 3 attacks, which if all 3 of those land, they will fatigue you out. And he's also got the skull club, which has dark slumber, which also applies additional fatigue damage. Now it is reduced for large targets, like this Titan. But, I mean, it's extra effect on damage, and this is armor negating fatigue. And these guys hit for a lot of damage. They're very rarely not gonna punch through for damage if they hit. But all he needs is one more set of attacks. He'd probably wipe the square and rout the whole group. And he ends up doing that set of attacks. So he hits the Carrion Fury with a Wraith Sword and kills it. And then he ends up attacking 2 different Carrion Furies with Mangosh as a parrying, rather than the Carrion Commander, which saves this whole raiding party from getting annihilated. The Carrion Furies then come back and hit for a big hit from the Skull Club and another hit from a Gore. And he's up at 97 fatigue. If they can land one more little piece of fatigue, this guy's going to sleep and probably never waking up again. And there it is. So 117 fatigue. If he had just killed this carrying commander, it would have been huge. He would have held on to the province, which would have been really annoying for me. Would have served me right for not bringing someone to bless the Carrion Furies. But as it stands, we get pretty lucky. We also get lucky that this guy doesn't rout, because if you remember, that Titan also had a Fear Aura, So he, let me see if I can find it. It looks like he never had to roll against it. So if we pull that up again, yeah, so Fear 5. So I guess just never got hit by the Fear aura. So pretty lucky there. So while it looks like we massacred the Pretender, this was actually a lot closer than it looked. As it stands, though, we pick up a fair amount of gear. Get pretty lucky on those checks. We lose only one Carrion Fury and a few mannequins. Then we've got a couple more Calum fights. So in Terrace Peaks, we've got a double Frostbrand Thug with an Iron Face, the Storm Armor, Boots of the Messenger, Girdle of Might. So a lot of reinvigoration. 8 melee income, so not completely fatigued neutral, but still pretty good. Should be able to kill a lot of stuff. Double Frostbrand isn't great against skeletons, but against PD it's going to work wonders, especially with Mist Form and Liquid Body. All right. So victory for Calum there in, whoops, that was Terrace Peaks. And then in Trollland, we see this guy rolling out. He does take off the Storm Boots. And he's going to put Mist Form on this guy. That's a lot of barbarians, though. Did he just get the leadership? Yeah, so he just happened to jump on the Barbarian Chief and Centurion. Takes out the leadership, routes a lot of PD that probably had a solid chance at killing him. All right, and that's another victory for Calum. Then in Lupia, we've got an Abyssian army here. Lots of stuff in this, including some wolves, the Smolder Ghosts. We've got a bunch of Fiends of Darkness, which is pretty cool. And over here, we've got a big Shinuyama army, a lot of Dai Bakemono, a number of Bakemono Sorks, actually a huge investment of Bakemono Sorks. So 2 of them, we've got Bags of Wine, we've got Skull Staffs, Fire Gems on 1, Abysia coming in with Fire Gems and Pearls, some more Fire Gems. We've got some Uba here with all with different gems, Earth Gems, Water Gems, Nature Gems. We have Fireballs, the Prophet, he's got a Carmine Cleaver. As a reminder, the Bless is Unholy Weapons, Poison Resist, Fate Weaving, Disease Resist, and Larger. We even got a White Mage down here. Pretty cool. And a whole bunch of Warlocks. Did they bring a bunch of Blood Slaves? Doesn't look like it. So I'm not sure if that got gym baited out, but they're not going to be able to do a great job as maybe like Sabbath slaves, or it's part of a Sabbath. Rain, the eternal bane of Abysia. So the Shinuyama murder ball survives the Abyssian charge and ends up defeating Abysia. So what's the price? Abysia loses 3 salamanders, a priest. Also, they lose 4 warlock apprentices, 11 devils, 22 fiends of darkness, 3 fire drakes, 10 summer lions, 39 smolder ghosts, 31 lava warriors. A lot of quality stuff died here, 253 total. Now that's 53 wolves, so 250 things that I would consider a little bit more high quality. And on Shinuyama's side, he loses some Akaoni, Aooni, who are summons, 85 Daibakemono out of his 216, and 37 Pikeneers. Okay. And then, yeah. All right, and then there's an indie attack on trying to free the fort from the Naba siege army. All right, so Naba defeats that Mound King and all those Long Dead that just randomly showed up. And we get another terrain change. So this is Barren Crags. Not planning to fort this one. I'm trying to slow down on the number of forts I make. White Peaks was a good decision, but Spires of Ascension might have been. And Silverwall might not needed to have been forted necessarily, although they help providing kind of like bastions for our Dominion closer to borders. But I do have some pretty significant plans here. So this group that barely survived this raid, some of these guys are going to head over to this throne. This guy's going to take the equipment, though, and run them away. We're going to go ahead and attack Galan Fens. So we've got a fair amount of stuff here, including some Centaur. We've got some Carrion Furies. If we run into the end army, I think we lose, but I think we will cause some attrition. We're also going to go ahead and patrol Southern Merc. I know there's a huge PD dump on Temiglia, so I can't just send this raiding party to Temiglia. And so the plan this turn is we're going to do Arouse Hunger ×2 onto this army. We're going to go ahead and send in Zan. He's going to do some Winds of Death with Mist Form, so he gets sent home. Rather than, getting killed by something like, a really big hit or a lot of damage. He does risk getting stolen or soul slayed, though. That would make me very sad, but sometimes you gotta take risks. And so the hope here is we can soften up this army. It's 330 things. We did, apparently we burned out his communion in this last battle, so he lost 6 mages. So pretty nice price to pay for this stuff now, especially since our hag retreated successfully. So we generally only lost, I think, 3 nature for the 2 guys and then 2 earth, and then some free spawn. And we got 6 mages out of it, and he spent a lot more gems. So now it's our turn to spend some gems, though. We're going to try to kill this. It's going to cost us a lot of death gems, which I wasn't really wanting to spend. And then we're going to go ahead and roll in the army. So the army here's the formation. We've got Sacreds in the center after the initial wall of mannequins attacks. We've got some flanking forces. We've got the Centaur all on one flank, which is our right flank. Or I guess the way it works in Dominions is the bottom flank. I don't think they like rotate stuff. I think they just flip it and then this stuff is still on the bottom. And then we've got a whole bunch more mannequins and carrion. These guys are mostly to protect the mage core. The mage core is doing foul vapors, relief, divine blessing, rigor mortis, howl. And we're going to go ahead and add in rain. So pretty much the Asphodel special, the mid-game special, and then we're going to try and put some poison ward on our black centaurs so they don't die. Yeah, I think that's it. And in terms of what we're sending, it's 665 things against 330, so we have a 2-to-1 advantage. And then I'm also hoping to limit retreat routes, so they'll only have the one chance to go to Tamiglia. This should be enough to kill these barbarians. And yeah, I think that's most of it. In terms of foraging, you can see here what we're foraging. What I like about doing the Shift F on this thing for showing what I'm foraging rather than going to the hammers in the other menu is you can see stuff I'm foraging without a hammer because I only have one hammer. And then, and then the other thing I can show is what we're casting. So Arouse Hunger, Cloud Trapeze, Arouse Hunger. And that's with Shift C. All right, so I think that's most of it for this turn. Let's go ahead and jump into next turn and see how we do. Okay, so we've got turn 44 pulled up here. And this was an extremely important turn. More so for End than for me, but it was still really important for me too. Unfortunately for End, his turn did not save, so he ended up staling. I think a great way to double check this is when you think you've done your turn, if you've had problems with this, go ahead and wait a couple of minutes so the server has a chance to save, and then run undone in your game channel if it's a clockwork game. And then you should be able to see if your turn has saved to the server, because you'll show up as either unchecked or unfinished versus your turn being done. So I think this has happened to me maybe once, and I just started building that habit. I've never really had an issue with that again, although I've been getting lazy about it recently. All right. So we have our magic phase attack on Emmerich, and then our normal phase battle on Emmerich. We'll go ahead and jump straight into it. So we've got our 2 crews of ghouls from Arouse Hunger, and then we've got Zan, the Panic Apostate. In terms of the gear on this army, nothing has changed because he staled his turn. Banishment is pretty severe. Now, I should talk about why I'm doing a Winds of Death trap for End. End, for all of the sacred stuff they have, doesn't actually have great MR. So these guys have 10 MR. The mages only have 13 MR. These mages have 13 MR. These troops have 10 MR. Normally you expect more out of sacred stuff. So End in particular, I feel, is pretty vulnerable to Winds of Death. And he wasn't casting anti-magic. So without anti-magic, this is gonna hit pretty hard. Mind burn, not a big concern. But yeah, So pretty hefty Winds of Death. We kill 2/3 of the army. We lose 2 ghouls, or we lose our ghouls, which is fine. And then our guy retreats off the field from an HP route. So we don't even have to roll on returning. Fortunately, we don't lose him retreating into enemy territory. He retreats successfully. And not only did we kill 216 things, including a lot of sacreds. For instance, these Mirror Guard have 12 MR, and they're especially tough to deal with. But we killed 2 Wolf Tribe Shamans, 3 Femini Sorceresses, 3 Abbot Sages, and an Abbot Magus. So he still has a fairly decent Mage Core, but I think this has taken a lot of the wind out of it, and I think it's probably spent the last of his gems. And then the army rolls in. So already we've had Relief, Foul Vapors, Rain, Rigor Mortis, and Howl go up for this army. It is still a lot of mages. All right, so we take a pretty clean fight here. We lose a centaur after the battle from poison damage. But we lose 1 carrying commander, which is fine. We lose 3 black centaur, which is fine. Although you mourn everyone that you lose. We lose 1 carrying fury, also fine. And 6 Sagittarian carcasses. Everything else we lost is perfectly replaceable. We lose 163 things, but in return we kill 114. In particular, we got the mage core. So we kill 25 more mages. We kill the rest of the stuff. And it was a pretty war-deciding stale. And then we have 1 more battle in Golan Fens. Again, the troops he had didn't move forward. Alright. The bears ate a fair amount of banishment, but I think they survived that pretty intact. We lose 2 boars, 2 horses, 12 wolves, and 5 mannequins. So that also went pretty well. In addition, we kill 2 priests, including a proto-pope, which is holy 4, viceroy primate, which is holy 3, and a shaman chief. So dealing out some more damage. And at this point, the war is pretty much over. Calum comes rolling in against Scaleria. And so a little bit of a budget raid, but there's a fair amount of stuff on this province. And these aren't the quality Calum troops, so this raid bounces. But it's not a big deal that this bounces. This is pretty cheap raiding force. And then we've got Marignan. Gonna go ahead and ping outside with a paladin, see what's out here. And that's largely to see some more of the scripting formation and also I guess I don't know. I guess just to see the scripting and the formation, because You can't really see it in the scouting report because Naba has Veil Army. So that whole army is hidden. So he never knows if Naba's just like moved off and gone somewhere else. So it's good to check every now and again. We got Nidavellir going after a throne. So this is the Nidavellir army. We've got a bunch of Nidbethed. We have a bunch of Nidalva. Very reminiscent of the Steel Maidens of EA Ulm. We've got a bunch of Shade Beasts, Griffins, and Zots. Alright, on the other side, pretty tough throne. Kithronic Lions are no joke. They've got 25 protection versus Mundane with their invulnerability, and they have resists. So unless you have bludgeoning weapons, particularly magical bludgeoning weapons, you're going to have a very tough time killing these lions. Also, heavy infantry. Won't be a big deal for Nidavellir to deal with, but I mean, it's always nice to have some stuff coming in and support. Then a bunch of Watchers and a Monolith with a lot of gems. Let's see if the Monolith does anything. We've got Iron Skin, Legions of Steel. Are there any gems? Not a lot of gems. Okay. Big Curse of Stones. So, Curse of Stones out of the Monolith. Let's see if anyone failed the MR check. Looks like he did pretty well. This wolf failed. So, whenever they're moving or fighting, they take more fatigue. So maybe that's a +3 fatigue penalty. Is that what I'm saying? But generally speaking, you want it cast as soon as possible so people are taking fatigue moving across the map. Like these these Nidalvas. I keep wanting to call them Steel Maidens. It looks like even with 9 MR, they did pretty well. I think it is easy MR negates. So you can see here, that one. The second Curse of Stones cast. See just how tough those Kithronic Lions are. They actually, a fair number of those were killed by their own Watchers, but he's stolen a few of them too, which is pretty nice. It triggers the army routes, and the statues are going to start dissolving. I bet these guys that are really fatigued out were the ones that got hit with Curse of Stones. So the units with the blue bars are probably the ones that filled the check. Got some Soul Slay coming out. Alright, and the Soul Slave finally punches through. So Nidavellir takes the throne. Gains 4 Kitharonic Lions, which is pretty nice. I think they're like 5 nature gems per or something crazy. So it's like getting 20 gems of free summons. Does lose 6 Nidbethad. Probably a fair number of Scar Souls were lost too. 43 Nidalvor. Some number of Shade Beasts. But yeah, for the most part, took a reasonably clean fight here. These units are completely replaceable. Shade Beasts, Wolves, Zots, all pretty replaceable. So none of this attrition matters too much, minus the Scar Souls taken on the Nidbethads. Then we have Shinuyama pinging this fort, trying to see what's inside. It looks like a bunch of mages. We have this guy who's a really big mage. Fire 4, Astral 3, Blood 3. A hero. After he was nearly assassinated. Okay. And now he's in charge of the assassins, so he's feared. We've got the Prophet here. The Carmine Cleaver, so a fair number of mages here, so it's not a trivial fort to take. And then Storming Pythium. We've got a few mages here doing a little bit of Body Ethereal and some other stuff. We've got the 2 Assassin Thugs. But generally speaking, this is over. Alright. So Machaka ends up taking the capital, loses 3 sorcerers and 20 hunters. But they've gotten rid of Pythium, so now I get to see if they keep to their peace agreements. We get some nature gems. We have our temple destroyed in Namor, which sucks. And we get some air gems. So this turn, we're going to press the offensive. We're going to go ahead and move on to Temiglia. So we've got our army here, all the same stuff, just trying to fill in more mannequins for the front line. We're also going to raid here into this wasteland. And other than that, generally not doing too much. Yeah, so pretty peaceful turn. I can see what we're doing a couple of arcane probings in terms of foraging, getting a little bit of stuff. I want my Earthquake Trap to be stealthy for the Earth King, so we're doing a Mask of Face borrowing. And some other stuff, I guess. And then also making some temp gem boosters, because it's pretty expensive keeping this army on the move, especially on death and nature income that I'm trying to save. So I'm trying to work on that a little bit. Continuing to filter in raiding parties behind these main groups. So we've got stuff coming in, sometimes with sacred, sometimes with other stuff, sometimes not. Really lots of stuff going on. Probably need stay behind troops on this guy. But yeah, we're gonna press the offensive. So we've done all the work killing the army. Now we have to go secure the gains. Unfortunately, End doesn't really have much to offer. So a couple of swamps, which aren't that profitable. So we're looking at potentially 3 swamps, 2 wastelands. So in terms of nice land that provides an income to Asphodel, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just 5 decent provinces. Not great, but we'll go ahead and move in to finish the job and then see where we go from there. In terms of research, we're at 2059. So we've delayed Conjuration 8 again. We're now moving up to Enchantment 7. That's for Serpent's Blessing, which I think I'm going to forget to script for my main armies. And then we've got Alteration 8, which is pretty nice for Resist. And then we've got Conjuration 7 and 8 for Will of Misery. And then we've got Awakened Forest, Enchanted Forest is what we're thinking about. And yeah, so I think that's it for this one. We've gone a little bit long, so I'll go ahead and call this one. And you can go ahead and see any numbers of things that you feel like taking a look at. And then in terms of graphs, we can see we gained less stuff this turn because of the fair amount of fighting we had. Research is still going pretty strong. And income is kind of holding steady with these gains. We've started spreading our dominion down here in the caves a bit. It's time. We need to start watching out for purgatory casts. So we need to get our dominion spread. All right, so I think that's it for this turn, and I will see you guys in turn 45. Have a good one. Bye.